Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who, The Keys of Marinus. Also, I got the new 13th Doctor's Sonic Screwdriver. At time of recording, it's Friday, the 31st of August, so I got it on the Wednesday, and the reviews of the previous episodes were on the Tuesday. So, yeah. So, today, we will be looking at The Keys of Marinus, the 5th Doctor Who story from Season 1 and the 5th overall. And yeah, I'm glad I'm starting off today's reviews with this one, because this one is a great story. It's such a great story. Okay, so the story is the Doctor and his companions arrive on a planet called Marinus, and the creator of this machine that makes people good for the most part has sent the keys off that power the machine to places so that the machine can't fall into the hands of evil, and lately it's been having a couple of problems. So the Doctor and his companions must go on a quest to find the keys and return them to the creator, Arbitan, his name is. And so they go on a couple of adventures. Episode 1 is the one where we find out about the stuff and what's going on, who's attacking them, and all the backstory. And it's actually done really interesting. And before we get to that bit, we have a really good couple of minutes of looking around, and it's actually quite interesting. Sea of acid, glass on the beach, mysterious figures coming in glass submarines, and a giant building. Is it on here somewhere? No, it's not on the cover, but it's a big building. And yeah, it's very interesting. In episode 2, the first place is a place where everyone believes, it makes people believe that they're in a place of work stuff. Nice place. But it turns out that they're being tricked. And there is one bit in episode 2 that I do really like, is when the Doctor and his companions, they go to what appears to be a laboratory, and it's fake. It's the Doctor and his companions are seeing it's a laboratory, but we, the audience, see it as just an empty room, and not a very nice one at that. And whilst earlier we had cuts backs and forth between from the point of view of seeing what we wanted to seeing the nice stuff to seeing the truth. In this case, it's actually quite funny seeing the characters being like, "Oh, this is magnificent," whilst what we're looking at is just it's funny. Episode 2 introduces Sabitha and Artros. I'm not sure, but we're introduced to those characters, and they come along for the ride. Episode 3, we go to a jungle that's coming alive, and I think it's due to the machine going a bit wrong that the plant is accelerating. And so the Guardian, that one, is protecting the key, but the plants are coming to life and trying to kill him. He does die of his own accord, though, of old age. This episode is mostly Ian and Barbara centred for the second half of the episode, as Sabitha, I'm going to call him A, and Susan also go off. Does it say here? No, it doesn't say. So for the the Doctor's also already jumped 2 steps ahead. Then Sabitha, Artros, I think his name was, and Susan go on to the next task when they think they've got the key, while Ian is looking for Barbara, who's disappeared. And then Ian and Barbara find the real key. the 4th episode, they go to what appears to be a very cold place with this really nasty guy pretending to be good, but he turns out to be a bit of a nasty piece of work. Don't worry, he makes his comeuppance at the end. And they get the 4th key from hidden behind some block of ices. There's some guards standing around it. And then we jump to episode 5, where everyone meets up. However, Ian is accused of killing a man called Ypres, who was the friend of A, not Arbitan, the other guy. And then he worked with the Doctor, but then someone killed him in order to get the key to sell it off. And there's a mini conspiracy across episodes 5 and 6. And Ian is put on trial. The times Ian gets arrested and accused of a crime he didn't commit in this series is astonishing, because as Marco Polo, he gets accused of trying to capture steal the TARDIS, the caravan. Here he's accused of murder. Next one, in Aztecs, he's accused of hitting the High Priest with his bat. I wouldn't be surprised if he's accused of a crime in the Censor Rights. I'll get to that. And Reign of Terror. Well, I don't know if he's accused of a crime, but he's accused. But Barbara and Susan are captured and taken to be executed for some reason. Maybe they were helping some revolutionaries. Not revolutionaries, some people who were supposed to be executed. Although in his case he does get saved from what would have been the guillotine, because they think he's an English spy. Thankfully, we'll get to that story a bit later. Thankfully, Susan and Barbara survive as well. But yeah, the amount of time Ian gets accused of a crime he doesn't commit in this series is astounding, or arrested or something. And so the rest of the crew have to find a way to prove Ian's innocence and uncover the plot and try and find the key. And they do it in a kind of a clever way. However, I think the fact that it extends into episode 6 is I think they've extended the story. This is the weakest element of Keys of Marinus, this extended bit. And I think the fact it's more than one episode is the problem. It also means that when all this stuff is finished, we're halfway through the final episode, and then we get back to the place where it all started, and by that time the villain behind or trying to take over, well, we saw Arbitan get killed by one of his henchmen, the Vord, at the start of the first episode, so we know he's going to be there by episode 6. So when we get to that, we've only got half the episode to deal with that. I suppose only half the episode does work in a way, but yeah, the bits before that had been a bit too long for what it needs to be. I wouldn't have minded if it was a whole episode of them back at the base, but not based at the start. But it works all right. It's very well. I suppose it's in a way it wraps up a bit quickly. Not as bad as the 7-parters, where it rushes. No, this one is a bit better with its pacing. But like I said, I think more time with the last bit would have been a bit more helpful. But there are some clever bits and really useful stuff. So yeah, Keys of Marinus, I suppose overall works because it's not 6 episodes of the whole thing taking place at the same time, same place. Instead, rather going to different places per episode, although 5 and 6 are kind of the same place until about halfway through 6, and then it goes back to the same place as 1 to wrap up the story, of course. So this was actually a really good way to use the 6-part format, as opposed to doing the usual stuff for going to do too many stories at once. It could do a couple of mini stories within one big story, and it's all connected as part of a quest to find something, and they also don't have to be very long. So I think that's a very good idea. So Terry Nation, in his one of only 2 non-Dalek scripts, did a really good job with that. It's a shame he doesn't write for more stories that weren't Dalek stories, because we could have seen a bit more of this, but then again, his other story was Android Invasion, which is good, but that's more of the typical 4-parter, as opposed to this, which is not quite your typical 6-parter. And yes, it's the first 6-parter of the show, and it's not your average 6-part story. It's a bit different. It's more well played out, which I think makes it really good, and also a step up from Nation as a writer from the Daleks, though he would develop over time as the writer of the Daleks in the 1st and 3rd Doctor's eras, and 4th, not the 2nd though. So in the 1st, 3rd and 4th Doctor's eras. Not so much Destiny of the Daleks, but oh well. Actually, so yeah. So Keys of Marinus was a really great episode. I really like it, and yeah, I thought it was really brilliant. And also, as I mentioned last time, the visuals would not, with not having the visuals or having it in still form, would not have worked so well. So thankfully, this story survives in its entirety, which is an advantage for this story amongst others, in particular. Though Marco Polo probably would have looked even better as a surviving episode, but sadly, we'll have to stick with it unless they reanimate or recreate it, or they find a missing episode or 2 or 7. So yeah, that's the Keys of Marinus. A great story. I'm going to give it 9 out of 10. The reason it's a 9 is because the stuff in episodes 5 and 6, whilst done well, it's not the most particularly interesting bits. I did prefer most of the stuff beforehand, and particularly in episodes 3 and 4, I think they've done the best. 3 in particular. I think the story should have stayed contained to 5, although I can see why it was extended to this first half of 6. And I think, actually, considering that maybe all of it in the 5th episode would just cram it all together, maybe. And also, what else was there to do with the last bit? So, I guess it works in a way, but at the same time, it's a bit strange, and the mystery isn't as big of an interesting part of the story. Not when you've got a even bigger threat waiting when they get back, as well as the fact that there's still this quest to finish. So it's like having a great big mystery at the end of the Key to Time stories. Except this it's like, say, Armageddon Factor wasn't a war story, about a story about 2 planets supposedly in a war, but instead was about one of the TARDIS crew being accused of killing someone, and so the other members have 4 episodes to discover the killer and save them, and then they get the key, and then they go off to deliver it, and then the last 2 episodes are about whatever's happening, where they need to deliver it to. That's basically if Key to Time had ended the same way as Keys of Marinus. So yeah, it's a bit like that, but in a more single episode term as opposed to a single story term. So yeah, that's Keys of Marinus. That was a great story. Just a couple of nitpicks towards the end, especially, but still a really good story. It's probably the best of the show so far. We will be getting on to another great episode in a bit, which is the Aztecs. And that is another great one. So yeah, season 1 is getting a bit better now, all of a sudden. So yeah, tune in next time where I'll be reviewing the Aztecs. And before I do the Aztecs, I will be reviewing Terminator 2: Judgment Day, which is the second Terminator film, and it's the second film that I have to review. So that'll be next, then it'll be the Aztecs, then I'm going to do Terminator 3. So that should be the order that you'll expect to receive Okay, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nick Payne Extra YouTube channel. Excuse me. So, tune in next time where I will be reviewing the Aztecs. So yeah. So, the second entry of